Just lean forward just a little bit to get in the camera there.
Okay.
How you doing, everybody? I'm the Jazz Shepherd. My name is Dan. My good friend Gary.
My man.
Boom. We go back a long time.
What's
We're gonna sit
happening?
here, talk a little bit about jazz, about socialism, and a little bit of philosophy. First of all, Gary from Chicago.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about yourself,
Um,
in a nutshell.
in a nutshell, from Chicago, migrated here in Minneapolis, 93. Attended the University of Minnesota. Currently work for the government.
Mhm.
Aspiring writer.
You have one book published too?
5.
5 books published. Great for you.
Love to read, love to write, for the purpose of just like creating, putting some of my thoughts and theories to paper.
And I've seen you work in the courts with some young kids. What are you doing there?
Child protection. Child protection.
That's got to be a very difficult job some days.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's challenging, but it can also be rewarding.
Sure.
It's challenging in the sense that, we are dealing with some pretty severe dynamic family issues. These families on the verge of losing their kids. Our job is to try to prevent that from happening, try to put in various interventions, try to do what we can to sever the problem. If not, then
You work mostly in the black community? Both community? All communities?
both community. I mean,
Yeah.
80 to 90% of our clients are people of color.
Yeah.
It's really not divided demographically, but demographically,
Yeah.
that's the majority.
That's
of
the
our
pictures I've seen. Is you're working with a lot of kids of color and
Yep.
underprivileged, and
Yes,
thank you for your service in that community.
pretty my man.
It's
Thank you.
it's heartbreaking, some of the stories, some of the things I've written that you wrote about some of the it's got to be just heart rending at times.
Yeah,
So I appreciate your service in that regard. But
Thank you,
man,
bro.
yes, love.
Right on.
There's no question that the experience of the black youth in America, especially black males, is under attack. You
It
know what
is,
I mean?
man. It is.
And it's one of extinction. And when you are threatened at all corners, desperation becomes an easy measure to result in.
Oh
you
yeah.
know.
I mean,
And a lot of the fathers are missing in a lot of these communities. Dead or in prison.
well, Dan. I mean, listen. To break it down to its simplest element, first law of nature is self-preservation.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
100%.
I'm not condoning nor am I defending some of the actions, some of the things that
Right.
anyone does, particularly black men.
Yeah.
But I also understand that if you have limited resources
Yep.
and if you feel
Yep.
as though your options are little to none,
Yep.
then that innate principle that we all have, being first law of nature is self-preservation, it
Yep.
kicks in.
Yep.
And we, as the old saying goes, we do what we have to do.
Absolutely. And crime drives poverty.
Yes, it
Yeah,
does.
I mean, they're interwoven so inextricably. Let me ask you next. Can you please share with everyone how we met?
Oh, how do we meet? Let me see. It was a Friday night.
If it was.
Some friends and I were going to a happy hour, which we went to downtown, and then one of my friends said, I know a place where they're playing old school R&B and hip hop. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the dynamics of Twin Cities night music scene, it's few and far between.
Yeah.
So when you hear something like that, immediately you become excited. Which I became excited because having come from Chicago, I took it for granted how many options
Right.
there were
Sure.
as far as
Black entertainment.
black entertainment, being able to go to listen to a certain genre of music.
Right.
It wasn't until I was here in the Twin Cities that I quickly realized how limited that option was,
Yeah.
or is, past and current.
Right.
So we were informed about this place called Triggs. Or at least I was informed. So we went to Triggs, and lo and behold, yes, I heard some of the funkiest melodic sounds that I hadn't heard in a while. And I looked in the corner, and there was this little white kid, playing some of the oldest yet funkiest stuff
On vinyl. Yeah.
that you ever want to hear. And the strange thing about it wasn't modern stuff. I mean, it wasn't what was popular at the time. You'd have to really be rooted in that genre of soul R&B music to know some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like it was some of that music, it's almost like it came from a very esoteric group
Right.
or background. But Dan was spinning, and I must have watched you spin, man, for a good 2 hours before I came and introduced myself. And I just basically said, look, man, I don't know who you are, where you come from, but God knows I appreciate you.
We hit it off right away, man.
Yes, we did.
And we had a kind of a social recognition and social consciousness and even a philosophical thing right off the bat.
Right.
We talked pretty deep right off the bat. But please remember my next question, where I wanted to ask you, I remember the first time I shared with you how I felt black music, why it spoke to me so strongly is, people of the Old Testament were an oppressed people, and they found freedom in writing about freedom.
Right.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, helped us get through these difficult times. And black music in America has that same place. It was healing, it was uplifting, it was ministering to the people, and they found safe when they were in numbers together, dancing and celebrating. And so this music was powerful, and it transcends over the centuries and millennia. It will transcend as well. So how did me talking about black music in America make you feel when the first time you heard me talk about it?
The first time we talked about it, I was really taken aback, in a good sense,
Sure.
of how knowledgeable you were.
Thank you.
And I think the one conversation or the one time we began to talk about that on a deeper level, because mind you, we're talking between you DJing.
Yeah.
So we're going back and forth, not to mention I had a couple of drinks,
Yeah.
so things got a little
Years have passed as well.
Right. But we began to talk about a James Brown song.
Yeah.
And that song was Hot Pants.
Yeah.
And you had me pay attention to the bass. And you were saying how this bass only plays 3 or 4 notes, and you looped everything, and how everything going on around it could do whatever it wanted.
As long as that space remains.
As long as that space remained. Somehow we segued to what you just said. We talked about the Egyptians.
Yeah.
And you talked about the oppression.
Yeah.
And the Israelites. I mean, we talked about a lot. But then, I don't know if you remember this, but we also began to talk about Negro spirituals.
Yeah.
The slaves, the people who were slaves, my ancestors, doing what is in the academic world dubbed that particular institution.
Yeah.
And how the slaves, by all accounts, were illiterate.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, they didn't know how to read or write, dyslexic, whatever you want to call it. Yet they were the first composers of what we know as American black music. They composed spirituals, some of which are still sang today.
Which leads into blues and jazz.
Which leads into blues and jazz.
And then these uneducated slaves took their captors' instruments.
Yes, they did.
And reinvented every one of them.
Reinvented it.
You know what I'm saying? Think of the power in that. I'm taking your magicians and making new magic with them.
And making new magic. But you know what?
You know what I'm saying?
To me, that's an ancestral thing. It's a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
Geographically, yes, we were relocated, dislocated, whatever word you want to use.
Yeah.
But you can't relocate or dislocate a spirit.
Right. No, I'm with you 100%.
That goes with you regardless of where you're at. I mean, now I listen to some music like this beautiful jazz piece we're listening to now, and I mean, I've always listened to old school R&B, jazz,
early hip hop.
Right? Emphasis on early hip hop.
Yeah.
But it takes you back to those Negro spirituals, man, because that's a testament to how powerful the spirit and mind is through all this oppression, through this subjugation, through this basically just the desecration of the soul, or the attempt to desecrate the soul. They were still able to jar out this music, these lyrics, these melodies,
And found freedom in it.
I mean,
it's powerful.
If only for that moment. Of course, I wasn't physically there as far as being a slave.
Yeah.
But what I've read, what's been told to me, just the horrors of it.
Right.
To find that voice through that horrific experience is a testament to the human soul.
And which leads to my saying where the winners of the great wars get to write the history books.
That's right.
The losers of those wars get to make great art.
Make great art. That's right.
You know, I mean, so here in America, the black community has made this music that will stand the test of time. And I remember sharing with you that there's, almost in essence, this Old Testament of jazz, which is your Louis Armstrongs, your Count Basses, your Duke Ellingtons, and all those cats. They're all the prophets of the Old Testament,
Right.
finding this coded message of freedom against their oppressor. And then the New Testament becomes soul and hip hop.
Right.
Stevie Wonder, Curtis Mayfield, Sam Cooke,
Donny Hathaway,
Ray
Sam
Charles.
Cooke, Ray
You know what I'm
Charles,
saying? Yeah.
Aretha Franklin.
That was this, and then you get into KRS-One, Chuck D, Public Enemy.
Right.
That was that next generation of the New Testament of black music. And so one of my last question I'm going to ask you now is, in your mind, who are the prophets of music today that are part of this proud lineage? There was people who wrote in Christ's time and the centuries after that we've not included their writings in the Bible.
Now, when you say prophets today, are you speaking today like modern today?
I'm just talking music. In music today, do you feel like Kendrick Lamar is part of that lineage?
Kendrick Lamar,
J. Cole. See,
Let me go back a little bit. Let
Yeah.
me go back a
Yeah.
little bit, man, because I was thinking about, like, most people associate jazz with just the instrumentals,
Right.
which a great bulk of jazz is. But if you listen to something like Nina Simone's Mississippi Goddamn,
Yeah.
that was protest over jazz music.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you could make the argument, man, that some, if not sonically, spiritually, some people channeled what she was saying in regards to Mississippi Goddamn, the oppression,
Yeah.
the subjugation,
Sure.
the basic treatment. Now this is pre-civil rights, so it took a lot of wherewithal for her to put out a record like that, or another coded record. Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit.
Right.
Okay.
Which will make your hair stand up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The thing about a record like Strange Fruit is it's just as hard as any hardcore hip hop record, but it's being sang over this beautiful melody.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of MCs wish they could have said something that heavy.
Said something that eloquent and that beautiful, yet that angry and that strong.
Right.
So when you listen to records like that, man, if that doesn't stop and make you think, and again, speaking to the level of creativity and what was going on, I mean, these people were socially conscious.
It's such clever stuff too. Like even Armstrong takes the song about a scorned lover, feeling sorry for the skin that they're in, and he sings it and he makes it about race subtly.
He does.
Yeah, I mean, he makes it about race very subtly. And to me, Louis Armstrong is the great forgiveness.
Yeah, oh man, isn't he?
I mean, he's the great forgiveness. His love and his embrace of those who oppressed him is so powerful and so strong. And my last question for you is, there's always been this kind of question and debate about what happened to the black audience for jazz. And I think when the music was very danceable in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, there's something in the black community that I think white community doesn't quite understand, is how sexualized dance is.
Yes.
It's a precursor to sex and into meeting and the entanglement. And I think once jazz became less danceable, it became less sexual. And as difficult as the black experience in America is, it's Friday night. I want to
dance.
I want to dance. And I want the precursor to what that leads to. And I think when jazz got too technical and too complicated, it lost its sexuality and thus its appeal. Because on a weekend, the black community doesn't want to necessarily talk about lynching on a regular basis. It wants to forget about lynching right now.
And I think that's a loaded question. I think let's start with the back part when you said forget about the lynching. I mean, it's almost like I know this heartache exists, but I can't live in this heartache.
And the blues is supposed to make you forget the blues.
It is.
You know what I mean? And so when jazz starts became too complicated, I think it loses a lot of what it initially was.
I think that one of the things, genres of music, they evolve. Yeah. And from jazz, we get R&B. Okay, from R&B, we get hip hop. Yep. So I think that sometimes, man, when you evolve, the evolution of it,
the current goes with that.
The current goes with it.
Yes.
Particularly the younger audience. I mean, there was a time I remember. I mean, and what I don't like about today is that the way to purchase or the way to maintain or attain music is what streaming, Spotify, all these digital mediums or what have you.
Sure.
When I was coming up, man, we had albums, we had CDs. The artists or the bands or whatever included liner notes. You would read about what was the emotion going on behind the music and this and that, and so on and therefore. think that to go back to your question, man, I think that in addition to the whole evolution part of it, a lot of us are trend driven.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to go along with the trend.
Yeah.
I mean, your music buying or music listening to audience, as far as it's really going to keep you abreast of what's going on, is what,
Sure.
18 to 27, 28?
Yeah.
That 10-year.
Yep. That's the
whatever.
demographic that
That's
matters.
the demographic.
Yeah.
So jazz, like this classical jazz, the older audience, they're not necessarily the consumer base anymore.
Right.
Okay, they're not the ones going out
100%.
buying the records or listening to the records, or they want to, know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not with us anymore, but like with Miles Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But using an artist like Miles Davis, now here's where Miles Davis was unique. He was ever changing.
Yeah.
He understood that the trend is not going to stay with me. I got to go with it.
Yeah.
Because he was one of the few artists who went from cool jazz to bebop,
Yeah.
hard bop.
Yeah.
Then he went to
Modal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then he went to fusion,
And avant-garde, yeah.
the avant-garde.
Yeah, he did the whole thing.
He did the whole genre. I mean, his last album, ironically enough,
That's hip-hop.
was a jazz hip-hop
Yeah,
album.
absolutely was.
So he understood that whole evolution.
And yet, I listen to Armstrong sometimes, and I can hear rhythms both vocally and in some of his trumpet rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
I hear sounds that I hear today in club music,
Yeah.
in dubstep, in pop music, Beyonce. So in a way, the main current of pop music, even though Migos has nothing to do with Armstrong, they're still using his language that he invented,
Right.
his rhythms
Right.
and his way of making it swing. That is, in a way, I find more in common with Migos and Armstrong than I do with a lot of modern jazz that's so avant-garde that no one wants to listen to it, and Armstrong. So in a way, Armstrong is still alive in all the pop music of today. His rhythm and his approach to singing and how he articulates off the beat and reshapes rhythm and within the measures, Armstrong is everywhere.
But do you think, I mean, and if you think about it, Dan, you're taking a very intellectual approach and a very intellectual analysis of Armstrong and Amigos.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying others can't, because of course they can. But do you think others will?
Make that connection.
Yeah.
It's not going to be connected by very many for sure. But I'm surprised how many times I've listened to, or even like a great swing track, listened to a Benny Goodman song the other day, and there's movements in there where the band is choreographed doing these swaying sounds that interlope in between each other. That sounds just like some dubstep ripping a club apart. It's insane.
You know, to use your analogy, I can listen to John Coltrane's Love Supreme, and I can listen to some early KRS-One
Yep.
and make that connection.
And they're both questioning the creator.
They really are.
Yep.
Because in Coltrane's Love Supreme, at the outset, he said, this is dedicated to God.
Yeah.
This is dedicated to a spiritual awakening that I experienced. And the measures that he goes through,
Yeah.
I mean, he just keeps going up and up and up.
Escalates.
He just keeps going up.
Yeah.
And you can't help but wonder, how is it humanly possible to do that?
That's etched in my wedding band.
Is that right?
Love Supreme.
Love Supreme, man.
Love Supreme.
My man.
You know what I'm saying?
My man.
The greatest love ever. Right?
Hey, man.
And Coltrane's one of the great prophets. You know what I'm
He
saying?
is, man.
He's
And that's,
Ezekiel. He's Isaiah. He's, you know what I mean? He's questioning the creator on all our behalfs.
that's
And-
why when I listen to KRS-One, his older stuff,
Yeah.
let's take, for example, his Edutainment album.
Yep.
I mean, this man is rapping about not just the typical, at the time, drug dealing and,
And how
mishaps
great he
of
is.
that. This man was rapping about beef.
Yep.
He was rapping about homelessness.
Yep.
He was rapping about, he gets real spiritual.
Police violence. The
Police
streets,
violence.
Economic oppression. You know.
He raps about on his the Blueprint album. Why is that?
Right.
And he goes through the spiritual. He goes through the biblical prophets.
Yeah.
Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac was the father of Jacob. And Jacob had 12 sons,
Sure.
for real. And these were the children of Israel.
Right.
So when I listen to that and I listen to Coltrane, I'm like, okay, it's almost like Coltrane vocally reproduced himself
Yep.
in the hip hop era.
And Chuck D, same thing.
Shep,
You know
oh
what I mean?
man,
Chuck D is saying into a microphone what Coltrane spoke into a saxophone.
yes he is.
You know what I mean? It's the same. And here's I had a little video with this earlier, a month ago. Blue Note allowed their black artists to rehearse.
Okay.
So they would get paid to rehearse, come in for a few days, get paid.
Wow.
And then they would get the track, which was unheard of in the music business, especially in the jazz small labels. And if you're 5 black cats in Hackensack, New Jersey, at Rudy Van Gelder's studio,
Okay.
and you're outside having a smoke break, and in the South, they're trying to force integrate the schools with the National Guard, and they're keeping little black kids from going to school.
Right.
And you're reading about the stuff in the headlines and the riots in Watts and Newark and Detroit, and there's this violence and chaos that makes everyday survival a part of your existence. How, when you are smoking a cigarette with these 4 other guys, are you not talking about that? So when you go back and pick up your horns to do take 4,
That's right.
how are you not emoting from almost a place of unity, this powerful black message
Right.
of your experience with a unity now? Because we've all been sitting here talking about rehearsing for 4
But
days.
you know, Dan, and that's a good example, man. I mean, but that's, I think, is the biggest misnomer with jazz. I think people equate it with this, or at least now, maybe not then, but now, as this just cool background music
Yes.
or whatever.
Yes.
But
That's bucolic and it's sophisticated.
It's sophisticated.
And it's about virtuosity. The virtuosity is a byproduct of the desperation.
yes, it is, man.
That's those African masks behind you.
Mm-hmm.
When that original carver 400 years ago carved that to protect his village, he wasn't thinking to himself, I need to be the best carver ever.
Right.
He's like, I need to be the best protector ever. That's a different motivation.
Different motivation. I hear you, man.
And so when you're playing your horn to protect your spirit and your soul, and you
Right.
feel safe here, you're going to become a virtuoso as a byproduct of
And
that.
you feel safe enough to express every channel of
Yes.
anger in
Yes.
you. I mean,
Yes.
it was
And it's speaking in code.
speaking in code, because at that time, man, if you really verbally
Said what you said.
said what you said or said what
Yep.
you felt,
Yep.
there was a high likelihood you was gonna get your ass kicked
Or killed.
or killed.
Lynched, burned,
Okay,
arrested.
there was
And-
a very high likelihood, man, that your words would be the last words that you spoke
Right.
or felt free enough to express without any repercussions,
Hesitations.
without any hesitation.
Right.
I mean,
And now you take the Book of Revelations in the New Testament. The prophet John's writing that in exile. And people often say he's writing that about the end times, but isn't he really just codedly talking about Rome?
mhm. Yeah, well,
Your judgment day is coming.
you're right.
See what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And when you have a message that says to the oppressed, your judgment day is coming, you will always find an audience for that.
Isn't that what Martin Luther meant when he tacked his thesis to the
100%.
door of the
Yep.
the
And
Roman Church?
And Bob Marley has the same message. Someday you are going to get yours, those who oppress. You know?
I think that I think the beauty with soul, when you come out the mid '60s going into the '70s
Mhm.
with the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Though you get the uprising of soul music and words being sang or
Yep.
spoken or whatever.
Spoken for the first time.
Though a lot of it was metaphoric.
Sure.
I mean, you can even include not Bob Marley, Bob Dylan.
Yep, absolutely.
You know,
He's part of that current.
he's part of that curve, man.
Yeah.
Now you're making that transition, man.
Yeah.
Now you got the
And Dylan told everyone, from rock to pop to country to folk to R&B, that you could make music conscious.
yes, you can
He made it conscious for everybody. Jazz was already conscious in code,
in code, right?
but Dylan said in 61, 62, let's actually put these resistance words into words.
And he did an excellent job of it, man.
Oh, he's amazing.
If you listen
Masters
to
of War.
Masters of War,
yeah,
Along
it's-
the Watchtower,
Oh, it's insane, man. It's insane when there's a hard rain that's gonna fall.
Hard rain that's gonna
You know what I mean?
fall.
It's he's
even the joint he did for the boxer Ruben Hurricane.
yeah, powerful stuff, man.
I mean, he pretty much gives you a full picture
Right.
in a matter of 4 or 5 minutes with his words and his music.
So bottom line is, jazz is this amazing art form
Yes.
that speaks for the oppressed, and we have found out through history that those who speak for the oppressed will often have their message carry on through the millennia.
Yes, they will.
So that makes the Black American experience a proud heritage, and
Very
that
proud.
makes this message something that we should get out there. There's something to be proud of, to be an Israelite in the Old Testament.
Yes. Oh man,
You know what I mean?
I'm
You speak for everybody.
I'm reading the Book of Judges now,
Okay,
and I just got done reading the Book of Joshua
sure.
and how God
The Exodus and the March through Canaan.
the march through Canaan, and God is mad because now you're dealing with 4 or 5 generations later of
Sure.
the Israelites who were with Joseph and
Yeah.
Moses,
Yeah,
and they're talking to, and basically what it's saying is that this is embedded in your spirit.
right.
Okay, but sometimes it gets lost. If you don't know,
Yep.
it gets
The way.
lost and
Yep.
it becomes dormant.
Yep.
But this is something that you were born with.
Right.
It's with you. It's just your job to get it up out of you, to discover it, to
Yep,
find
to
it,
express it.
to express it.
And I think on some level, the human condition is one of expression of self.
Yes, oh,
You know, I mean, fulfillment is expressing myself in this world and leaving something tangible behind. A bank account and a house is not what you leave behind as your heritage.
right.
You leave behind the art that you make, the statements you save, the poetry you write, these thoughts. That's what's...
You know, you look at it, listen, man, and I agree with you 100%. I think the human experience is one that's built off expression. Look, you read about Helen Keller,
Mhm.
who, by all accounts, did not have the same physical faculties that you and I had.
Yeah.
But she knew in her spirit she had to express herself, and she did that.
Right.
I think that she is a testament of the human experience is about expressing yourself. I mean,
It is.
whether it's through an art medium, whether it's through, I don't know, politics, sports, whatever.
Yep.
That is pretty much one of our primary duties
Right.
while on earth, to express yourself.
And if you're lucky, you get to open a trapdoor or find a key that no one's found before.
This is true.
You know what I mean? I think that's somewhat that's purpose and meaning in life is think something that's never been thought before.
Hey, man.
You know what I mean?
Build on it.
Share a thought that's never been shared, and build a bridge that's never been built.
My man.
And so this is my man,
Right on.
Gary, the Black Sheep. I'm the Jazz Shepherd. We're going to try to do another one of these coming down next month or something. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Peace.